She stood at the range, quiet, steady, raised the rifle, took her shot. The bullet missed by inches. Laughter erupted. She can't even aim straight. But then a red light blinked behind the target. The instructor froze. The system shut down. Her shot didn't miss. It disarmed the range. She lowered the weapon and walked away. If you know the difference between noise and skill type, she didn't miss. It was a private live fire training session hosted by a prestigious civilian defense contractor. Attendees, mostly male, predominantly ex-military personnel with extensive combat experience in competitive shooting backgrounds. She had no visible rank patch, no unit identification shirt, just a plain dark hoodie, and remarkably calm posture that suggested someone comfortable in military environments. "You here to spectate the real shooters?" someone asked with an obvious smirk and condescending tone. She didn't answer the taunt, just quietly signed her initials on the registration clipboard and selected the last available rifle from the equipment rack. Her shooting stance appeared deceptively loose. Her hands remained completely calm. But notably, she didn't adjust the rifle scope settings like everyone else had done. Other participants had gone before her, achieving tight shot groupings, celebrating with cheers, exchanging congratulatory high fives for their marksmanship demonstrations. When she stepped up to the firing line, someone muttered with obvious anticipation, "Let's see this one flinch under pressure." She fired a single shot, clean execution, quick follow-through. The round struck just wide of the primary steel target by several inches. The room immediately burst into mocking chuckles and dismissive headshakes. Missed by a mile. Typical. Knew it from the start. Another tourist trying to play soldier. She didn't offer explanations. Didn't look back toward the group for validation or argument, but the range lighting system began to flicker ominously. Then all indicators turned bright red. Electronic warning tones began sounding throughout the facility as automated safety systems activated without human command. The sudden change in atmosphere silenced the mockery as people realized something unexpected was occurring. Range personnel began checking their control panels with obvious confusion and growing concern. Something had triggered emergency protocols that weren't supposed to activate during routine training exercises. The instructor rushed toward the control station, scanning digital readouts that showed system anomalies he had never encountered during years of facility operation. What the hell happened? All systems are showing override activation. Technical staff scrambled to analyze the electronic logs, trying to understand what had caused the comprehensive system shutdown. Her single shot had somehow triggered security protocols that were designed to activate only during serious emergencies. But there was no apparent emergency situation that would justify such a response. Just one woman who had fired one shot that appeared to miss its intended target. The electronic systems were treating her missed shot as if it had been a direct hit on critical infrastructure. Automated safety procedures that were designed to protect personnel and equipment had activated in response to something that looked like poor marksmanship. But the sophisticated monitoring systems weren't programmed to react to missed shots. They only responded to threats that posed actual danger to facility operations, which meant her apparently missed shot had somehow created a genuine threat condition. The mockery had been replaced by confused silence as people tried to understand what they had witnessed. Someone whose shooting had seemed incompetent had somehow triggered the most advanced safety systems in the facility. Systems that were designed by experts to recognize genuine threats and respond appropriately. If those systems had activated, it meant her shot had accomplished something that conventional marksmanship couldn't achieve, something that required knowledge of facility operations that exceeded normal civilian understanding. The question was whether her apparent miss had been accidental trigger of hidden systems or intentional demonstration of capabilities that no one in the room had recognized. Her calm demeanor suggested someone who understood exactly what had occurred, while everyone else struggled to comprehend the implications of what they had witnessed. The range had been disarmed by someone they had assumed was incompetent through methods that revealed their assumptions had been completely wrong. A sudden critical alert flashed across the main control panel display. Sensor triggered. Range override system activated. All training systems immediately locked down automatically. Steel targets retracted into protective positions. Electronic scoring displays went dark. The head instructor rushed forward urgently, checking detailed system logs with obvious confusion and mounting concern. What the hell happened here? She somehow hit the override relay sensor. Technical staff pulled up the high-speed video feed analysis, reviewing her shot frame by frame to understand the mysterious system activation. The bullet trajectory had passed precisely beside the main target and clipped a tiny thermal sensor positioned behind the steel backing. Not by accident or lucky coincidence. That concealed sensor was only visible if someone knew exactly what to look for and understood the precise angle required to access it. The facility technician scrambled through emergency protocols. She disabled our entire targeting system with a single round fired from the standard shooting position. How did she even know that sensor existed back there? It's not visible from the firing line. She had already placed the rifle down methodically. No celebratory words, no visible pride in her accomplishment. Just the same calm professionalism she had displayed throughout the entire encounter. The bewildered instructor caught up with her outside the facility as she walked toward the parking area. Where exactly did you learn to make that kind of shot? She paused deliberately, considering whether to answer his question. I designed the system you're using, she replied simply. Complete silence followed her revelation. The implications began sinking in among the staff members who had witnessed her demonstration. She wasn't a civilian trying to impress military personnel with amateur marksmanship. She was the architect of the systems they used for professional training. Someone whose understanding of their facility exceeded their own technical knowledge. Her apparently missed shot had been a precise diagnostic test of equipment she had helped create. A demonstration that she retained comprehensive knowledge of systems that others used without understanding their underlying design principles. The sensor she had targeted wasn't part of normal training operations. It was a hidden safety mechanism designed to prevent accidents during system malfunctions. Something that facility operators knew existed but had never seen activated, because activating it required someone with intimate knowledge of its location and function. Knowledge that could only come from involvement in the original system design and installation. Her single shot had simultaneously tested the sensor's functionality and demonstrated her continued access to technical specifications that weren't available to current facility personnel. The override activation proved that safety systems she had designed years earlier were still operational. But it also revealed vulnerabilities that current operators didn't understand or know how to address. Her visit hadn't been about proving her marksmanship capabilities to skeptical observers. It had been a covert assessment of whether critical safety systems were being properly maintained, whether the people currently responsible for facility operations understood the equipment they were using. Her test had revealed gaps in their knowledge that could compromise personnel safety during actual emergencies. The mockery she had endured was irrelevant compared to the serious technical issues her diagnostic shot had uncovered. Issues that could have resulted in accidents if they hadn't been identified and addressed. Her willingness to endure ridicule while conducting necessary safety assessment demonstrated professional priorities that transcended personal ego. The kind of dedication to public safety that characterized someone whose work protected others rather than seeking recognition. Her expertise had been hidden behind deliberately poor marksmanship that concealed her true purpose from casual observers, but had accomplished essential system validation that facility operators couldn't perform themselves because they lacked the specialized knowledge required to access and test critical safety mechanisms. A discreet investigation followed immediately after the system activation incident. Her name wasn't listed in any public contractor registries or civilian marksmanship databases, but buried deep in classified internal documentation. She had once been officially listed as A-Level Systems Architect Tactical Live Environment Applications TLE Project designation. She had personally designed and helped build the comprehensive override matrix system, the very technological infrastructure they were currently using to train new defense contractors. Years earlier, during the system's initial deployment, she had voluntarily stepped away from the program after a critical design flaw she had repeatedly warned about caused a serious live fire training accident. Her detailed safety warnings had been systematically buried in bureaucratic processes. She subsequently disappeared from all official project reports and documentation until this unexpected return. The thermal relay sensor. She had precisely targeted a hidden emergency cut node concealed behind false steel plating for protection during normal operations. Only someone who had personally helped design and wire the installation would know it existed and understand how to disable it with a single carefully placed shot. She hadn't come to the facility to prove her marksmanship capabilities to skeptical observers. She had come to determine whether facility operators had finally addressed the safety flaw she had identified years earlier. They hadn't implemented the necessary corrections. Her diagnostic shot had been both test and warning about ongoing safety vulnerabilities that continued to threaten personnel. The override activation had been deliberate demonstration that critical systems remained accessible to hostile exploitation. Someone with her knowledge could disable facility defenses using methods that current operators couldn't detect or prevent. But more importantly, someone with hostile intent could potentially cause accidents by exploiting the same vulnerabilities she had identified. Her warning had been delivered through practical demonstration rather than written reports that could be ignored. Proof that safety issues she had raised years earlier remained unresolved and continued to pose risks. The facility's current operators had inherited systems they didn't fully understand. Technical infrastructure that contained hidden capabilities and vulnerabilities that weren't documented in standard operating procedures. Her return represented an unofficial safety audit conducted by someone uniquely qualified to identify problems that others might miss, but also someone whose recommendations had been previously dismissed by administrators who prioritize operational convenience over comprehensive safety protocols. The sensor she had targeted was part of a broader safety network designed to prevent catastrophic accidents during system malfunctions. Networks that required regular testing and maintenance that current facility operators weren't performing because they didn't understand the systems well enough to maintain them properly. Her diagnostic shot had revealed that critical safety mechanisms were functional but neglected, working properly but not being monitored or maintained according to original design specifications. Her visit had been both assessment and intervention, determining current system status while simultaneously alerting responsible personnel to ongoing safety concerns. The override activation had served as unavoidable notification that expert attention was required, something that couldn't be ignored or buried in bureaucratic processes like her previous warnings had been. Her method of communication had been chosen specifically because it couldn't be dismissed or overlooked. A practical demonstration that demanded immediate technical response rather than administrative consideration. Her expertise remained available to address safety issues that current operators couldn't handle independently. But her willingness to provide assistance depended on institutional commitment to implementing comprehensive solutions rather than temporary fixes. The choice belonged to facility administrators, who now understood that their operations were being monitored by someone whose knowledge exceeded their own capabilities. Someone who remained committed to protecting personnel safety regardless of official recognition or bureaucratic acceptance. The shooting range facility reopened 3 days later with a targeted thermal sensor permanently removed and replaced with updated safety monitoring equipment. New comprehensive training protocols were immediately issued throughout the organization. All contractor trainees now received mandatory instruction about counterintuitive threat assessment and hidden system vulnerabilities. Her personnel file was quietly reinstated in classified databases with Level 7 security acknowledgement under internal operational code. Architect returned passive advisory clearance. At the next scheduled training cycle, a handwritten note appeared taped to the main locker room door. Don't underestimate the quiet ones, especially if they bring their own technical knowledge. And buried deep in facility system logs, her professional initials reappeared in active status. SH System Override Authorization Range 01 Diagnostic Complete. No facility personnel have reported seeing her since the diagnostic incident. But every time someone approaches the firing line at that range, they remember the day someone missed her target on purpose. Her single shot had fundamentally changed how facility operators approached system security and personnel safety protocols. Training programs now included modules about recognizing expertise that didn't announce itself through official credentials or visible rank insignia. Understanding that competence sometimes manifested through methods that appeared counterintuitive to conventional observation. Her diagnostic method had been more effective than formal reports or official recommendations that could be ignored or delayed. Practical demonstration that demanded immediate attention and couldn't be dismissed through bureaucratic processes. Facility safety standards improved measurably following her intervention. Equipment maintenance procedures were updated to include regular testing of previously neglected safety systems. Personnel training expanded to cover system vulnerabilities that had been considered too technical for standard operational curricula. Her influence extended beyond the specific facility she had visited. Other defense contractor installations began conducting similar diagnostic assessments of their own safety systems. Recognizing that inherited technical infrastructure might contain hidden vulnerabilities that required expert evaluation, professional networks began sharing information about the importance of maintaining connections with original system architects, people whose knowledge remained relevant even after they were no longer officially associated with current operations. Her story became an unofficial case study about the value of institutional memory and technical expertise. Evidence that dismissing experienced personnel could create safety risks that exceeded the benefits of operational changes. Training MISE began incorporating lessons about recognizing unofficial expertise that operated outside normal credentialing systems. Understanding that some of the most valuable knowledge existed in individuals rather than documented procedures. Her approach influenced how facilities approach safety assessment and system maintenance throughout the defense contractor industry. Emphasis shifted toward proactive vulnerability identification rather than reactive problem solving after accidents occurred. Years later, safety engineering courses would reference the diagnostic shot principle as an example of creative problem solving under institutional constraints. Students learned that effective communications sometimes required methods that transcended conventional professional protocols. That expertise could be demonstrated through actions that appeared unconventional but achieved essential objectives. Her legacy lived in improved safety standards that protected countless personnel from accidents that might have occurred without her intervention. But her identity remained as protected as the technical knowledge she possessed. The ultimate example of professional service that prioritized results over recognition. Someone whose work improved systems without seeking credit or official acknowledgement for contributions. Her story proved that expertise didn't require institutional validation to remain valuable and effective. That dedication to safety transcended organizational boundaries in bureaucratic limitations. If you believe some shots are meant to shut systems, not targets, subscribe to The Ordinary Heroes.